Today, we're highlighting the top 5 ways to position yourself for success in 2025. This is the Be a Marketer podcast.
Be a Marketer.
My name is Dave Charest, Director of Small Business Success at Constant Contact, and I help small business owners like you make sense of online marketing. And on this podcast, we'll explore what it really takes to market your business, even if marketing's not your thing. No jargon, no hype, just real stories to inspire you and practical advice you can act on. So remember, friend, you can be a marketer. And at Constant Contact, we're here to help. Well, hello, friend, and thanks for joining us for another episode of the Be a Marketer podcast. Happy New Year to you. And a happy new year to the one and only. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Kelsi Carter. Hi, Kelsi.
Drum roll. Here I am. Yeah, happy new year. I can't believe it's 2025 already. That's insane.
I know, it is kind of insane. The end of the year really kind of flew by. I think really starting like that since like September, really, right? Everything just went boom, boom, boom. It's like, oh boy.
I think the holidays have like a lot to do with that too, because there's so much running around.
Well, that is true too. And of course, I'm sure we don't have to tell anybody listening here today that this is oftentimes one of the most busiest times of the year for small business owners. So I'm sure they felt that as well too. But I will say this, I think both Kelsi and I do hope you had a very successful 2024. I almost said 2025. But as we move into 2025, I hope there are lots of lessons that you have been able to carry over. And hopefully you've started to at least lay the groundwork. I say hopefully because sometimes things happen, right? I think even we find ourselves like, oh yeah, we definitely should have been putting a plan together or a strategy together much sooner than we have as a business as a whole. But sometimes, things often get tied up and you end up doing things a little later than you hope you would do them, right? So anyway, we are here today, Kelsi, because we thought this would be a good opportunity for you and I to just chat about some of the things that we've seen really over the 2 years of doing this podcast. And I think success often is about doing things that are repeatable and learning from those who have kind of been there before you and taking those things and making them your own. And we really want to talk about, I would say, 5 things here today that we found that a lot of these successful business owners that we've been talking to are really doing. And if you think of marketing as a tool, right? Really, at the end of the day, what marketing is this idea of communicating with the people that are open to hearing your message, and then finding the places where you can find more of those people and getting in front of them, and then keeping your business top of mind with them. And so at a base level, this is really all it is. And so in these things that we'll be talking about, although they might not seem as though we're saying marketing things, but really they are. And so what are those things? Kelsi, you want to give us the list of the 5 things we're going to be talking about today?
Absolutely. I wanted to. I was just like, you better ask me.
I'm glad I could make that available to you.
Thank you. The top 5 ways to set yourself up for success in 2025 that we've been seeing in just previous episodes is number 1, building strong community relationships. 2, continuing to learn and adapt. 3, adopting marketing automation tools. 4, segmenting and personalizing your marketing efforts. And 5, regular reviewing and adjusting your marketing strategies.
Yeah, so let's get into some of these things here. So building strong community relationships. I guess I'm not surprised at how often this comes up, but what I am surprised at is how often it is overlooked, I think, by business owners, particularly when you start thinking about the digital marketing space, because we get into this kind of, I want to say myopic view, right? Of like very narrow in terms of like, oh, I've got to do these activities online. And you really do forget that for a lot of businesses, it's really about what you're doing in your local community. And you're kind of flipping a little bit, right? Where the digital tools are an extension of the things that you're doing versus the other way around, right? For many businesses. And then, of course, there are those businesses that are built online. But still, there is within that circle that you're engaging with online, I would call that your community that you're trying to engage and build those relationships with. So I guess some of the things that we're really thinking about or talking about here, right, is like really like hosting local events, just doing things that allow you to engage with the community, Of course, focusing on what that customer experience is like so that you can really start to increase your visibility within your community and that customer loyalty. Because when people see you more often in the places where they are, that of course starts to build that trust and starts to build that loyalty. And this really, I think when you start to think too, particularly if you're first starting out as a business owner, right, you don't have that large marketing budget. You are challenged by the fact that you don't have the dollars to spend like a big business may have to extend their reach. And this is really an opportunity for you to, at a low cost way, other than, of course, investing your time and commitment to doing these things, to really reach a broader audience. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's even a local coffee shop that I think is a great example for community building is they started out really small by a food truck in a parking lot, and then they would just have events every now and then, and now they're a full-blown actual coffee shop with a location, and they still host events like that with their food truck, which I think is amazing. So they reminisce on where they started from, but
Mm.
that's a great way for them to really like bring people locally, but then also like to expand.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think that's really cool. And I think it's just right, just thinking about it a little differently, right? Like, what do you do? Because I think it's all about creating those deeper connections through these events. Even partnerships, I think, is something that is very overlooked. And again, just really focusing on those relationships that you have, it can really start to transform and make your business something that's very integral to the community. So you become something that's just ingrained in that local community. So I want to talk through some of the customers that we've kind of seen do this, and we have two really come to mind for me. Tamika Catchings, owner of Tease Me Cafe, who actually just recently, or I should say last year, worked with us. And she's a constant contact ambassador these days, and she did some work with us for Black Entrepreneurs Day, which is a lot of fun. And Tamika is one of my favorite people. She's amazing. I hope you get a chance, Kelsi, to actually meet her one day.
I know. I have so many great things like watching her speak and just her passion and drive is just, I really want to meet her.
Yeah, just a great person and really, really heavily ingrained in this idea of the importance of community around her business. And so she owns these tea shops, cafes, whatever you want to call them. And I think she's got 3 locations at the moment. And each one of them a little bit different in terms of the locale and the people that frequent them. But the thing that they all have in common is that she is really focused on creating these community centric spaces in her shop. And she has these regular events. She calls them community conversations. And it really provides a platform for the people within the community to come together to talk about important issues. And that's not just tea conversation necessarily, right? We're talking about open dialogues about things like gun violence, right? Things like that. She also has these talks over tea where she brings in local people, local artists, even. She has collaborated with local artists to display their artwork in her shops. Really, really, again, this idea of becoming a hub for community activities. And it really fosters this inclusive and welcoming environment. And I remember we were fortunate enough to go out there for an event. We actually hosted an event within her shop, and just showing up with even the staff not even knowing who we were or what we were there for, just coming in and feeling welcomed and
Mm.
part of the Tease Me family was really something that was exciting. And it really allows you to build a loyal customer base that feels emotionally connected to your business as well.
Absolutely. And they'll keep coming back. The long-standing customer, they'll just keep coming back if they have a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the other people that come to mind here, I say people because this is a husband and wife team. And Kelsey's probably tired of hearing me talk about these folks, but
Not at all, because I finally got to try some and it's worth talking about.
yeah, it's really good. So Chris and Mary Ginder are the owners of Gindo's Spice of Life. This is a hot sauce company in the Chicago area. And I'm just going to give you a plug. If you like hot sauce, go check this out. These are fresh pepper sauces, a little bit different than what you would typically think when you get a hot sauce, that are very salty and vinegary. They have huge staples, of course, that they have within their catalog, but then they do these limited release batches of things. And what I love most about it is that you can taste the vegetables, the peppers, right? The
Mhm.
things are in there, and it's not just this high vinegar, high salt thing that you're kind of producing heat, right? And they have varying levels, of course, but totally worth it and totally worth checking out. And of course, supporting a great husband and wife team, and just you're getting an amazingly high quality product too. So what's interesting about them is that it's really, for them, it's really kind of like the 3 C's, right? Consistency, connection, and community to really help build their business. And they do things, of course, like participating in local farmers markets. They partner a lot with other local businesses. I want to give you an example here. I remember they were going to some type of, I want to say like a Comic Con related event.
Oh,
And they
interesting.
actually partnered with a local artist to draw these kind of comic book labels for their hot sauces and like name them specific things, which I thought, again, you wouldn't necessarily think of that.
Yeah, no, that's really fun.
But if you're ingrained with what's happening in your community, though, like all of a sudden those opportunities pop up like, oh, what could we do? And so they're doing things like that. And of course, looking for ways to showcase their brand at just whatever the local community event is. And of course, this allows them, of course, to build that brand visibility. They're there, they're in the local community. Those folks that are typically seeing them, right, again, strengthen those relationships with people there and local residents, of course, and of course, the other businesses. And you have to imagine and think through this as well, that if you're creating a product, you also have things that other resources that you need actually to produce those products, right? And so they work with local producers and they really are integrating themselves into the fabric of that local community. And they also do things, of course, to support other local initiatives in terms of financially and those types of things and the things that they do. So just another really important thing to really think about here is that building those community relationships is really key to moving your business to that next level.
Yeah. And the next big thing for us was continuing to learn and adapt
Mm,
because it's very important to stay updated with the latest marketing trends and tools because everything's changing all the time. If we did marketing the same way that they did 30 years ago, I don't think it would withstand the test of time. But by continuously educating yourself and remaining open to new technologies, you can really better yourself to adapt to changes in the marketing landscape.
yeah. Well, something to think about here, Kelsey, too, which is spurred by what you said there, right? Is that 30 years and it's changing and all of that. And I think what's interesting, though, to that point, the technology changes all the time. And particularly right now, it's moving really, really fast. But I feel like that can feel overwhelming to a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think the thing to keep in mind here is that although the technology is changing, the things that make us human at our core have not for many, many years. And it's really about connecting with those things and then figuring out how to communicate and use the technology to help you, again, make those connections with people. And to your point, I mean, time and time again, I'll even list off some names, right? Lucy Hall, Melanie Deal, Jay Schwedelson, Cliff Johnson, Ramon Ray, Ken Countess, Ed Bernstein, Kim Jones Sneed. All of these people that we've talked to over the years have really mentioned this, right? That you really do have to be open to thinking about where are you going to get your information and how are you not going to hide from changes that are coming, but figure out ways to incorporate them and take advantage of the things that technology offers you so you can better adapt to those changes. And I think the important thing here, I mean, hey, good news. You're listening to this podcast. Hopefully, you're using other Constant Contact resources as well. And thank you for allowing us to be a part of you keeping on top of what's happening. But I think that's important too. Like, look, we get it. You're a business owner. You've got lots of other things to do than focus strictly on marketing, which is why Constant Contact tools even exist in the first place. But I think besides that, we take it upon ourselves to stay on top of what's happening in the industry and what changes are coming and finding ways to, of course, bring that stuff into our tools, but also make you as the business owner aware of it so that you know what you do need to pay attention to or what you should be thinking of so that you can be proactive versus reactive in many situations. And so we bring this up to just be open to, and this is just true of your business in general, right? You're going to learn something new pretty much every day in terms of something new that you have to do,
Hmm.
just in terms of running your business. And so it's really about taking that information and then making the adaptation to what it is that you need to do to really evolve along with the marketing channels as well.
So that actually brings us to our next point, adopting marketing automation tools, because many of our guests have turned to marketing automation to address resource constraints because a lot of small business owners don't have the bandwidth to constantly be on top of every marketing piece, be on top of always posting their social. So automation really helps you with that consistency because consistency is very crucial in a business. And tools like Constant Contact allows small business owners to automate email campaigns, social media posts, and customer segmentation. So it not only saves time, but ensures that consistent communication with customers and maintains that engagement with even limited resources.
Yeah, the good news here, of course, is that if you're listening to this, you're likely a constant contact customer. Thank you for that. And even if you're doing something as simple as scheduling an email, that means you're finding time, doing the work you can, and then you're scheduling that to be sent, right? It's sometimes that simple. And sometimes even just thinking through, okay, I have a chunk of time. Can I do multiple marketing activities that can be scheduled for a later date, right? When you start thinking about scheduling social media posts through Constant Contact, for example, scheduling your emails, whatever those things may be, even scheduling an event to come up, right? Something like that. It's really about thinking through. And I know oftentimes, a lot of times people they're resistant to the idea of using automation because thinking of automation invokes these images of feeling impersonal
Mm-hmm.
and feeling like you're doing something that is maybe not authentic. And I think the reality of it is that to me, as long as you're creating the content that you're creating still is written from a human voice, its goal is to build those connections with people, you are actually able to be more personalized because the content that you're able to send that is automated, particularly when it's triggered by an action that someone takes, right? Like I think of click segmentation as an idea of this, and we'll talk more a little bit about segmentation, but the idea that somebody says, ooh, I have interest in this thing by clicking on a link. And then on the back end, you're triggering an automation that will send them more information. Think about that. How much more personal does it get? I'm saying, hey, I'm interested in this now. And right now, you start sending me information about that. That's the beauty of automation. And that means that you can have something that's set up. And once that's set up, it's going to work for you today, tomorrow, or 3 months from now, or 3 years from now. If you're resistant to automation, it's really a good opportunity. Again, these are the things that people are seeing to save them time and then make sure that they have that consistent communication with people at the times when people want to hear from them. This is how you get to that next level. So it's a good opportunity to embrace that. Let's think of some customers here, Kelsi, that maybe are doing these in fun ways or thinking about that, because I just want to share some ideas with people because, again, it's one of those things that automation is interesting, right? Because the promise of automation is really cool in terms of saving time and doing all of that. But there is some thinking involved and then there's some setup involved. And so it often becomes one of those things that people don't do because they can't even get over the hump of like, okay, how would I do this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to share some examples from some of the customers that we've spoken with so that people have some ideas maybe they can steal or at least get them thinking in the right direction. Do you have any examples for us?
Yeah, so one that immediately comes to mind is Charlotte Walsh, who's the owner of Charles River Running. So she took advantage of Constant Contact's marketing automation to streamline her customer communication and improve engagement. So she set up things like an automated birthday email, which that is something that seems so small, but it's actually makes a difference with your customer. She included discount codes to add like a personal touch to her customer interactions. She even used automated campaigns for promoting upcoming races and events. So that ensured that her running community always received information timely. And she also used automation to help her maintain a consistent relationship with her customers because you're out of sight, out of mind, they're going to forget about you. So if you're receiving relatively consistent emails, they're going to always think of you. And it also helped drive engagement through personalized content and targeted promotions without needing to really manually manage everything herself.
Yeah, I love that. Another customer that comes to mind is Valerie J. Lewis Coleman of Pen of the Writer. And she's a writing coach and publisher. And she uses automation features within Constant Contact to really streamline a lot of her promotional campaigns. And so she'll set up these email sequences that really help her nurture new leads that come into her contact list and allows them to, or I should say, allows her to introduce her brand, provide some value through writing tips, and then gradually move them down that path of either purchasing a book or services from her. And again, this allows her to maintain a consistent and professional presence while she's focusing on those other aspects of her business. Again, these are all things that are working for her while she's doing other things, which I think is also really good. She also uses automation for reminders about events and book launches and workshops that she's producing. And again, it's that idea of that consistent engagement, like you've said, that, again, time and time consistent is a big word that you're going to hear to really, again, get to this stuff without having to manage everything manually.
Another example is Marissa Tilley and Chelsea Demby of Lady Black Tie. So the way that they use automation is for managing their email lists and segmenting their customers based on their preference. So by automating follow-up emails and using the targeted marketing campaigns, they ensure that the different customers that they have receive personalized messages. So not everyone is receiving the same thing because not everything relates to the same person. So for example, customers interested in formal gowns would get specific promotions about new arrivals in that category, while those that showed interest in accessories would receive content related to accessories. So segmentation automation really helped them to boost customer engagement and conversion rates because they offered more personalized shopping experience without manually managing everything.
Yeah. So we keep talking about this idea, of course, that I mentioned earlier, the idea of segmentation, but also this personalization. And that's our fourth thing on our list, segmenting and personalizing your marketing efforts. And really, when people ask me, like, all right, I want to get better results from what I'm doing from email. And my number one thing to always bring up is, well, are you segmenting? Are you doing some level of that with what you're doing from a marketing perspective? Because segmenting, again, is really just this idea of breaking your overall list into smaller lists of people that have similarities that then you can send more relevant information to each of those groups. And this can be done, of course, based on preferences. It can be based on customer behavior, but that more relevant content allows you to increase engagement. And then, of course, reduce the likelihood, of course, of people unsubscribing because they're getting stuff that is irrelevant to them. And it's just, you're more effective in terms of targeting and just getting overall better results for your marketing efforts. And so I think of folks like Nicole Stevenson of Dear Handmade Life, where she uses segmentation to connect with really different groups within her audience more effectively. So she segments her email list based on interests and actions of her subscribers. So, for example, she'll create separate segments for people who have maybe attended a craft workshop, maybe even purchased products from her, or just signed up for her newsletters, so she'll do things such as workshops, announcements for those interested in learning more about that, or maybe even special product promotions for past customers. Really, again, thinking of ways to make the communication that she does send more relevant and engaging to each of the groups that she has within her segments.
And Gablianetti is another example of Wolf commercial real estate. So they use segmentation in their marketing campaigns to cater to different types of clients in her real estate business. So she divides her email subscribers based on factors like property interests, geographic location, and engagement history. So this allows her to send the specialized content, specialized newsletters highlighting available properties tailored to each segment's preferences. For example, commercial tenants might receive updates on new office spaces, while property investors receive information like data analysis of emerging markets. So the personalized approach really ensures that her subscribers receive content that matches their interest, improving engagement and conversion because you're right, if they're just receiving information that's not relevant for them, they're more likely to just hit that unsubscribe.
Yeah, that unsubscribe or just be ignored in so
Hmm.
many instances. And I think sometimes that's okay because sometimes people aren't ready for what it is that you're offering. But again, that's why you kind of have to do those things that speak specifically to those people in those different stages with your business. And so to keep them engaged, keep them interested. Cliff Johnson from Pablo Designs, of course, is someone else that I always often think back to his episode where he really highlighted the importance of recognizing and addressing those distinct audience needs. So when you start thinking of professional industry related clients, for them, it's like architects and interior designers, those types of things, versus you have individual consumers. And so individual consumers are obviously not going to care about the same things that the professional clients are going to care about. And so this really splitting this out allows you to make sure that you're talking about the right products and you're marketing them in the right way to the right audience. And so again, when you start thinking about using your constant contact account to manage those segmented lists and really thinking of ways even to use those to create some dynamic content within your newsletters that you send with those targeted campaigns, it really helps, particularly for Cliff. This is something that really helps with launching new products effectively because he can engage with those audiences at various stages in the funnel.
Yeah, and Cliff actually said something that really resonated with me about honing in on exactly what the customer need is and then trying
Mhm.
to build a story around that. And then also trying to solve the problems that they're looking for so that the content is relevant for what actually they want.
Yeah, love that. And then our fifth thing here, as we think about just wrapping this all together, the idea of regularly reviewing and adjusting your strategies. And so, if you're going to measure what's going on and improve your effectiveness, it's really about reviewing what's going on. It's one thing I think it's easy to get caught up, and this is particularly true of social, where the strategy becomes I'm going to post, right? But really, just posting is not a strategy. You have to
Mhm.
post with purpose. And so when you start thinking about what is it that you're trying to do, and then looking back at the things that you did do, did it help you reach the outcome that you were looking for? And so you really do need to go in and start thinking about analyzing your performance metrics and then really just adjusting your tactics accordingly. And so you can start to identify what works, what doesn't work, and then optimize your efforts over time. I think this is a big thing. Not everything you do is going to work. Not everything you do is going to be and I'm using air quotes here, the right thing to do. And I think that's the mentality that you really need to come at this with is marketing as a whole is a learning experience, and it's something that you need to continually do and adapt and change with and adjust as you're going with this. So it's an iterative process, really, that really helps you ensure that when you do have those resources that you're using, or the time is often one of the major resources that is being used efficiently and effectively, so you're getting the best results.
That's something that we're even trying to do with this podcast. So we're very familiar with that, where we want to see how long people are listening to episodes, how many people are listening through the full episode. That's stuff that's important. So then we can take that into account. And then next year, really try something new, even test stuff, change something up that wasn't really working and see if that works now. So it's really like trial and error, but also just looking at your data and then improving and enhancing so that it matches.
Yeah, I love that example too of even just this podcast where we've worked a lot to refine things over the couple of years that we've been doing this, but we haven't been waiting till this moment now to
Hmm.
produce an episode, right? That still has value in the forms that it has been in. But we've also talked to people to find out what they like most about the episodes and what parts that they find helpful to them. And also just thinking through the idea of really, how do we try new things? I mean, this year we're going to be releasing a limited series of real estate episodes with our friend Stephanie Alfonso here, a constant contact, a resident real estate expert. And so it allows us to try these things to see, does that work for us? Does that play well? And does that provide enough value to the audience that we're trying to reach? I think of some of the folks that even really dig into this idea of just reviewing and adjusting their strategies, right? Barbara Gassaway from the research group and Observation Baltimore. She really uses those analytic features within her constant contact account to really just, again, monitor the performance of the campaigns that she's sending out, but then looking at open rates, looking at click-through rates, looking at the subscriber engagement so that she can identify what of the content that she sends really resonates most with her audience. And then she can adjust her messaging based on what performs well. She can start to optimize subject lines, adjust the frequency even of the emails that she's sending, and then just refining the types of content that she includes in there. By again doing this, regularly reviewing those campaigns, she can really ensure that her marketing stays effective and really engages those our audiences that she's trying to reach. I'll just mention one other before we kind of wrap up here, Kelsi, right? But like Daryl Moser and Julia Gackenbach from Donor Perfect, we talked to them and they really shared a lot of insights into using the data from fundraising campaigns to really refine strategy for your future efforts, underscoring really that role of review and that iterative improvement can really have in what it is that you're doing from a marketing perspective. So I don't know about you, Kelsi, but I think we've given people a lot of things to really think about here. So I just want to recap. As you're putting together your marketing strategies for 2025 and thinking about the things that you should do, think across these 5 buckets, right? Build strong community relationships, continuing to learn and adapt, adopting marketing automation tools, segmenting and personalizing your marketing efforts, and then regularly reviewing and adjusting your strategies. This can really help you in the sense of getting your business to that level that you want to be. And maybe it's not to grow, but maybe it's just to create something where maybe you're spending less time in the business. And so, again, these areas can really help you reach even more success as you move into 2025.
Yeah, I think you really rounded it out very well, Dave. I was just really happy with all the guests that we had in 2024, and I'm very excited for 2025, all the ones that we have lined up. I know it's great. And I'm just looking for another great successful year of the Be a Marketer podcast and being involved. But if you're a new Constant Contact customer,
Mm.
make sure to check out the new customer hub where you can find resources to get you started. the ability to connect with other constant contact customers, and you can even drop in a live Ask a Trainer session to get instant help and pro tips.
I love that.
And Dave, if someone has a marketing question,
Yeah.
where do they send that in for us?
Well, I was going to say, if you're a constant contact customer and you do have a question for me, and we can try to work that into a show for you. So you can head right on over to that constant contact community to post your question for an upcoming Ask Dave episode. And you'll find a link to that in the show notes. Kelsi Carter, thank you so much. Looking forward, as you are, to another 2025 with a series of great guests for our listener. Thank you for joining us again. And if you're new here, be sure to go back. We'll include some links in the show notes as well, so you can check out some of those earlier episodes. And really, again, set yourself up for success in 2025. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Be a Marketer podcast. Please take a moment to leave us a review. Just go to ratethispodcast.com/BAM. Your honest feedback will help other small business marketers like yourself find the show. That's ratethispodcast.com/BAM. Well, friend, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and continued success to you and your business.